Hello and welcome. You're watching, listening to Seventh Sanctum podcast. I am Kerry Ann. I'm one of your hosts this evening, and I'm joined with my co-host, Gavin. Hi, Gavin. How are you?
Hi, yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, yeah. It's been a busy bank holiday. I went to the Canuden May Day event today, which was really cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they did the maypole, and watching young people try to get the knack of the maypole was equally as enjoyable as watching the maypole. Yeah, there was a lot of confusion going on. Adults had it perfectly. Young people like, where are we meant to go? What's happening? Who's going under? Who's going over? But yeah, it was a good day. What about you? How's your weekend? But you've been quite busy this weekend.
Yeah, I had like a 2 day festivally fate thing, the cost to see fate.
Oh,
It's quite good. It was really busy both days, quite hot. Lots of people came by,
nice.
stopped for a chat, talked about all sorts of different things. Yeah, it was really nice actually.
And you've got your
Unusual.
talk coming up. Got your talk coming up as well, haven't you?
I did a talk last weekend. I think I'm possibly doing another talk, but in Cornwall. At the either the end of this month or the end of next month. Um, and I've kind of got, I think, every month now until the end of the year. I think I've got at least one talk, but they're either going to be about Slavic folk magic or the Norse creation saga. So yeah,
Nice.
get over that
You
fear.
have to give us. You're doing a really good job here. This is where we can do the practice run, and then
Thank you.
you'll be all good to go when it comes to standing in front of people. Once you,
Oh.
I think with speaking, it gets really nerve wracking. I remember I did a talk once, and it was really kind of really, it was like a geek fest. It was about sensory deprivation, the science behind it, in my head, I'm thinking, "This is boring. This is really boring. I mean, I love this, right? But this is boring." So I had to like do a check-in. Is everyone okay? Is everyone okay with
Yeah,
this? Is everyone enjoying it? And they're like, "Yeah, yeah." I'm like, "Okay, good, 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 good." And we got to the good stuff. It was like, "All right, Laura, now it's time to go into the sensory deprivation." We done the session, and that kind of, I really was really thankful for that. But yeah, when I first stood up and I started talking, I was thinking, I love this stuff. This is the best to me. Tickles my brain. But anyone else listening, they're thinking, what is she talking about? So I would say, give it a good go, and yeah, it'll be wonderful. So
yeah.
tell me a little bit about how things have been with your jewelry and making your jewelry and stuff. There's lots going on there.
Yeah. Like I've just got some new orders and pieces from abroad for a change of pace. Um, so that's going to be exciting. Um, some bumblebee jasper, fossilized coral, imperial sea jasper, and some other stuff that I can't remember what he said it was called, but it's super pretty and I'm taking a gamble. Um,
Nice.
and constantly changing everything, adapting, learning. I got some skulls from some friends in the last 2 weeks. So
I know you said.
I got a Chinese water deer skull and a seal skull as well. So that's going to be exciting. Going to wire up them hopefully, but no idea how they're going to go because it's something that I've not done before.
Well, I'm excited to see
Me too.
your creations. So this week we're going to be talking about cursed films and unfortunate events when it comes to the creating of films and sets and the actors that were involved. But before we start getting into that, we wanted to kind of link in from our last show, wasn't it? There was some of the things
Mm.
that we covered when we spoke about mimics, because there was an interesting kind of crossover in terms of some of the mimics that you had found and the horror stuff that we're going to be talking about this evening. So yeah, I've been waiting all week to hear about this, so I'm really excited.
That was my final category from last week. Was the true mimics, like stuff you would normally see in a horror movie. Um, so we've got stuff like the Leshy, where it's super good at mimicking voices to the point where you wouldn't know that it's not your own voice that's calling out to you.
Yeah.
And they have the manipulative intent with the ability to outthink humans at a rate that we wouldn't think that something wasn't human would be able to. And they like some of the famous stories, like you get lost in a fog and you just kind of cower in fear of fog and you get stuck there for days, weeks. And then sometimes you don't die, you're just kind of frozen in time. And then turns out it's only been a few minutes and then you're released and you're talking incoherent nonsense and everybody's like, you've been gone less than an hour.
Oh, wow.
Madness. And then the second one on my list was the doppelganger. So, like, I swear doppelgangers have been in movies, but they get like misrepresented by like talking and like the evil twin thing. Because it is essentially
Okay.
what a doppelganger is. It's an evil twin. Like people will see them doing something like Jack the Ripper stuff, and then they'll be like, "I saw you doing blah blah blah." You're like, "No, definitely not. I was in bed." But they don't talk, but they look exactly like you, but they move slightly weird, like not perfectly. And that's another one that I'd like to see better represented in movies, but it'd be good. Yeah, and the Strigoi, which is basically like a vampire. Yeah, and this, yeah, basically like Dracula, but all the myths of vampires and stuff stem from there. So it's a pretty good one for the movie-based mimics. Yeah, that was the
And I
last of
think
the
going
three.
back to the doppelgangers, so when I think about the doppelganger, there was people would say, "Oh, you've got a doppelganger because you've got someone that looks just like you."
Yeah,
But
yeah,
what you also just that so that kind of representation of what we see in media and how we perceive it as day to day isn't necessarily the representation with mimics themselves. It's the act of someone doing something that you wouldn't do but
yeah.
looks like you.
Looks
Okay,
exactly
okay.
like you, like a mirror copy. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, unusual things. Um,
Absolutely. And I know we was thinking a little bit more about the horror themed
mm.
ones as well.
Yeah,
So is
they're
that
all
coming
things that I
in
think would
line with
fit like nicely.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think in terms of like coming that into our next subject, or talking about the curse horror films, there's a couple of films that I know that we've looked at independently and um have come up with the same kind of ideas, which is really cool because I really can't wait to talk about one particular film I'd never heard of before. But in terms of the mimics before we move forward, is there any other ones that have kind of come up for you that we haven't spoken about yet, or that you found really interesting, or you really want to kind of touch back upon?
Um, no, I don't think so. Like, there's some in the Americas and stuff, but there's like a whole nother subject entirely. I only really did European ones, which was an interesting change. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Okay. So with some of the films that we've looked at, so there is the really well-known films that this isn't a new subject or a topic. We're not the first people to talk about this. This is something there's been quite a lot of speculation within the film kind of demographic of people that are interested in films, but also those that are really interested in conspiracy theories, that are interested in the paranormal. So this isn't the first time we're going to be discussing this topic. However, there is some kind of ones that have come up for me for the first time that I found really interesting. Is there anyone that should we start off with the most obvious one? Should we start off with The Exorcist?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So some of the films that we're going to be talking about tonight, we've only kind of like touched upon. Other ones we've had a bit more of a deep dive on. So some of it's going to be kind of really surface level stuff. Other stuff is going to be more kind of getting to the nitty gritty of things. But The Exorcist is the most common one. The Exorcist is well known. In fact, I think they used the speculation and the cursed and unfortunate events as part of the advertisement, like the allure behind the film itself. So I think they played into it a bit more when these things happened on set. Um, but there was a couple of things that happened. So one of the things of the set was set fire to, and I think it was traced back to a bird actually flying into a circuit box. Um, but the only room that survived was Regan's room as well. So it was the one that was built to be refrigerated so that they can see that visible breath thing. Um, and then also William Fradking intentionally fired guns onto the set, which to startle actors for that realism. Uh, but one of the most notable things was that a lot of the actors afterwards really did kind of reports that lingering psychological effect from being on the set. If we think about psychology and about priming, I wonder what kind of being in that environment for a prolonged amount of time would have on someone's psyche, the impact that would have. So I can imagine it's almost like I suppose when I think about it, the same thing, but not the same thing. It's like that Jackass film when they filmed that film, and then they were doing the interviews, and everyone was looking over their shoulder, and they said, "Well, I can't stand sitting in this chair because I know something's going to happen to me. They're going to play a prank on me," because they'd been doing that film for such a long time. They associated that sitting down in that chair to being pranked. And I suppose it's the same kind of concept and the fact that they've been in that environment for so long that that is a reality within that narrative, that why wouldn't they expect it outside of the structure of the film? And a lot of the the kind of incidences that happened on the set kind of, I think that within itself blurred the lines between the acting and genuine trauma as well. Um, Yeah, is what did you come across anything that was interesting about The Exorcist?
Like, a lot of it I thought was the priming as well, because they were like heard weird noises, scratches, banging, stuff like that. And I'm like, you've probably read all about this so many times. But I also saw, I think it was with The Exorcist, with a lot of the like prosthetics and stuff were causing people to get like heat stroke and things. So they were getting a high number of injuries, which weren't that like crazy. But when you look at it compared to some other films, it looks like a high number. But it all kind of makes sense because of the type of film it is. Everyone makes the haunted or cursed thing to big up the advertisement and whatnot.
And I think as well, um, as humans, we like to attribute like human emotion to inanimate objects and inanimate situations. So we will find reasoning behind incidences, and because of the nature of the film, it's likely that the conclusion is going to be supernatural as well. So I think it's really important to kind of hold some space for that and the impact that would have on not just the actors but the people that were watching it as well. Because I think it wasn't just the actors that had these things happen to them, and I know there were some tragedies that had happened a little while after as well, the filming and stuff. But the people that were watching the film themselves were reporting to have these things happening as well in the homes or to them when they come home from the cinema itself. Um, but I suppose when we think about that film, we really, and at that time it was innovated, wasn't it? It was nothing like that had really been filmed before. And I suppose it really does push the boundary of that, of people's perceptions of reality, I think.
Wasn't it banned in the UK when it first came out? Was it The
Yeah,
Exorcist?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, it was. And not a lot of people could make it through the film. Not a lot of people could make it all the way through. And I think, yeah, I think at that time, it really did put people in uncomfortable places in their perception of or their understanding of what the afterlife was and what does it represent as well, and what could it mean for them. And I suppose you always have these kind of ghost stories or folklore that talk about evil entities and the impact that can have on other people, and the impact it can have on you if you allow it to come in. And I suppose seeing it being played out in real time probably had that further impact as well. It really did kind of push things to the psychological extremes, I think, and that had to play a role in it. So it's a little bit like if a tree falls in a forest, does it make a sound, right? Did the psychological, the pushing those the extremities, did that create the curse? Was the curse created because of the every single incident being an independent incident, however, putting them all together itself created the curse? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Good evening, Simon. How are you? There's some really strange comments in the chat today. I don't know what's
it's all
going
the
on. I've had
kids with
to,
too many E numbers
yeah,
in
I've had to
school
rem-
right now.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what's happened. This never happened before. Oh, it's nice to have a nice message, Simon. Good evening. I hope you're well. Sorry,
I think
Gavin. I got cut in there.
I read a thing that was like on tandem with the subject, but not directly linked, where when you focus so hard on negativity or the negativity associated with possessions or the super paranormal and um, the noisy ghost, can't remember the German word, poltergeist. When you focus on things like that and you're
Yep.
putting that energy out there, reacting to that energy, and when it feeds on fear and the power that it has over people, and you're doing that without it being there, you're kind of just inviting something to just come in and take up that role. So it makes sense in a way.
Or alternatively, projection,
Yeah,
um,
and manifestation in it.
telepathy. Yeah, and I think it's interesting because when you talk about poltergeist, and we're going to be talking about the poltergeist film in a bit. A lot of the time when we talk, I do when I do like little talks on the paranormal and stuff, and um, one of the questions I often get is like, how what is a poltergeist and how does that happen and what's the difference between a poltergeist and a ghost and a ghost and a spirit? And I tend to focus on the formula that needs to be in place, or they say needs to be in place for there to be poltergeist activity rather than a poltergeist itself. Now every single fictional kind of representation, whether it's the American Haunting or whether it's the Exorcist or even Enfield Haunting, whatever one, it's always the same. There's a breakdown in the home, there's financial difficulty, there's a pubescent daughter, um, there is trouble with, it could be a breakup, a parent separation. It all seems to be the combination that need the winning combination to be able to then have poltergeist activity. And the theory is, and it's just one theory, is that actually the poltergeist activity is a manifestation of the pubescent daughter. That's the theory behind the poltergeist activity. I'm not necessarily saying that's the case because, when we think about, and I know I talk about it all the time, but the Phillips experiment, poltergeist activity is that activity of objective um, activity in the home, movement, things thrown, all that kind of stuff. So the Phillips experiment might not necessarily fall in the poltergeist activity, but objective movement. That was a ghost that was made up by the group that was working with them, and the ghosts basically become because they said so. So it's interesting, but I think at the same time, I think that obviously it's a pseudoscience, right? There's no definite in on what that is. It's just, yeah, I think that's why it's important to have conversations like this, I guess. Try and have like a broader understanding with it. But at the same time, you make a really good point when it regards to the poltergeist and how they can represent like present themselves. Um, but I think it'd be really good for us to, because I know we've only kind of briefly touched upon Exorcist. There is so much more. I think the biggest thing is the fact that it was the fire on set, as well as the tragedies that had happened to some of the actors following the production of the film. Um,
It
but
was the
even
whole
within itself,
series,
if you was to
wasn't it?
look at it from a superstitious perspective, yeah,
Oh,
every
like it
every
wasn't
film they
just the
made
it was the,
something
the
different.
whole series that made it weird. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, every single one had something going on with it. Um, but again, when you think about that spiritual mindset where of nothing is a coincidence, so it's just, yeah, it's very interesting. Um, but yeah, so again, moving on to that poltergeist, film Poltergeist. Again, you've got a family that's moved into a home. There's difficulties in the family. You have that young girl, Kerry Ann. Um, so again, it seems to have the similar formula. Um, but I think one of the things that me and you spoke about before, Gavin, is the fact that they use real skeletons
Yeah,
in this production, in the first one in particular.
it's because it was cheaper than the prop skeletons, which blows my mind.
Which
Because it was on a budget,
right?
and it was cheaper for them to rent from the science facility somewhere actual skeletons. They did it in a few movies. That there's some more recent ones as well, where they got like mummified bodies in the walls, and they pulled the boards off, and there's some of the bodies in there were real as well. I can't remember what
Is that
film
the
that is.
is that the Connecticut haunting?
No, it might be. I just remember a
Yeah,
dad with a
because
crowbar jimmying off the wall, and like she had like a room where she did the mediumship,
yeah,
and then all the walls was
yeah.
bodies stacked up, and that's why they had like such vicious hauntings. Was the abused dead? Um,
Which again
yeah,
had the same formula in that film as well, because that was meant to be based on a true story, right? That Connecticut
I think
haunting
so.
is meant to be based
Yeah,
on a true story. Yeah. And again, you had a family that's being separated, you had a young person who was being treated for a really bad, quite serious illness. So they had to be split between houses. There was financial difficulty. Yeah, there's just But I
also
did not know that
there's
they were real
some of them
mummified
were,
bodies
not all
though.
of them were. I don't think, but a lot of yeah. As it might have just been a rumor at the time, because I haven't looked into it since. I just remember reading when the movie came out and that was a long time ago,
Yeah, it's
that
an
there
old
were
film, that one,
real
isn't it?
bodies. But I think the older films, especially before like prop, uh, like making props became like a big industry, it was just cheaper to buy the real thing. Um,
Oh.
no,
I think it's when you think about the energy that would hold those skeletons. Yeah. Simon
I
said, "Do
do.
you think they spread these stories just to sell the movies?" That's what we were saying. Yeah, we do think it's part of the advertisement of it to kind of push the film. So it would be interesting just to see whether that's true. But I think that concept of being able to use mummified bodies just makes that film even worse. That makes it even more um a little bit more spookier. But they
Because
definitely did use real skeletons for the Poltergeist film.
it does just seem like a really easy way to boost sales by saying like, "Oh yeah, we had real skeletons in our film, and they brought all kinds of evil
Yeah.
spirits with them. You have no idea. You haven't seen evil spirits till you've seen Poltergeist." And it's like it doesn't even take much to create a like massively vivid story. All you need is someone with that long distance stare where they stare right through the camera.
And the thing is, they actually did that as well because there was like Jo Beth Williams. She would go on when she was doing the when they do the stints advertising the events around the country. She said that she found it very difficult to film with the real skeletons, that it made her feel incredibly uneasy. I think just by someone saying that, that kind of you think to yourself, oh yeah, I'd feel uneasy. It puts that in there already, doesn't it? Yeah, it's very interesting. So, a couple of the other things that happened around the film itself. Um, there was a murder that happened in 1982, and that was Dominique Dana Free, Dana Feeling, um, Freeling, sorry. And she was murdered by her ex-boyfriend. He strangled her outside her home. So that was one of the kind of tragedies that happened after filming. And then Will Sampson died after a heart-lung transplant in 1987. I think again, when we think about how humans as a human, we automatically attribute human emotion to an inanimate object. We look for patterns. I think those two separate things could occur and not be linked if it wasn't for the film itself. I know I'm like Captain Obvious, but I just think it's quite interesting to, yeah, touch upon.
I can't remember what film it was I was looking at earlier, but there was one where two of the main actors were flying to the like filming location of it, and in two separate planes, and both planes were hit by lightning, like going to the same destination at different times. That is a weird coincidence.
Yes.
Like that shouldn't
Yeah.
happen.
No.
Yeah, bad luck that one.
Yeah. But again, we like, is it? Is it bad luck? Is it coincidence?
Definitely a
Yeah,
sign.
is it coincidence? Well, the thing is though, in my head, I'm like, yeah, but hold on 1 minute. That's the kind of mentality that started the witch trials, right? With King James going on. Yeah, that's the kind of mentality that caused, yeah. So I'm like, oh, maybe not. But he was like, this isn't bad luck. This is clearly imps. This is clearly imps that have done this. So we obviously need to
Valid.
get this sorted. Um, yeah. So I don't know. Uh, but I think going back into the skeletons and stuff, where there was the film itself is talking about being buried on Simon says brings a whole new meaning to having a cameo appearance. And Simon says, as a YouTuber who looked into several possibilities, supposed cursed videos, highly recommended. Thank you, Simon. Um, but yeah, so the film itself, what I found quite interesting is the film itself said that the reason why these things were going on in the home was because it was meant to have been built on top of a ancient burial ground, which I feel quite ironic that they then would choose to put real skeletons into the film, so that because we have that cultural or superstition around disturbing um sacred grounds and remains and the impacts that could have. I just find it interesting that literally the whole film of the film, the th- the whole theme of the film was based around not disturbing, kind of bones, and the props were bones.
They weren't ancient ones though, so it was okay.
Maybe. All right, fairs. There's a cut-off point. There's a cut-off point.
As long as it's the last 50
Fair
years,
enough.
it's all good.
Then we're all good. Anything past that, we're in danger zone. But before that, that's absolutely fine. Simon says, surprised they were allowed to do it legally. I think they rented them off of that's what Gavin was saying. They rented them off of
Science department, I think.
a science.
Because loads of people in America
He's so
can just
strange.
donate their bodies to science and stuff, and then just have their skeletons displayed in medical, like universities and things. No, thank you.
Yeah. No. It's a no for me. But okay, so the other tragedy that kind of happened as well was the passing of Carol Ann in 1988 at the age of 12. She had a condition that was misdiagnosed. They initially thought she had flu, but it turned out to be something a lot more serious. And this was around the timing of when they started to film Poltergeist 3. So I suppose really the sudden and unexpected passing of her was something that people claimed was part of the curse as well. The fact was that she actually did have an underlying medical condition and that it had gone untreated and undiagnosed for a long period of time. But again, it was just something else that was linked straight back into the curse of the filming. Um, other deaths as well that kind of were included into the curse was Julian Beck in Poltergeist 2, the villain, who died of stomach cancer in 1985. But again, was already quite ill when they were filming the film as well. Um, Yeah, so I think again, thinking about, some of these curses of the film can actually be understood a little bit better by just being able to take a step back from that all encompassing kind of, this is part of something that's quite terrible, and more sitting in our logical part of the brain and being able to rationalize it a little bit more. But I absolutely believe that it probably did play into being able to um, sell the film more so, because it's that fear factor, isn't it? When we think about that ancient fear system, we are continuously looking for things that scare us, so that can prime that ancient fear system. It's innate. It's something we need. So when we go adrenaline finding, that's essentially what we're looking to do. Paranormal investigating, for those that aren't really familiar with it, is very much that kind of adrenaline junkie sensation, and I think horror films can have the same effect. And the real of the more real the perceived threat, the more of a kind of adrenaline kick we're going to get. So I think it's also, um, I think therefore I am a little bit as well. Yeah. So yeah, I think, when we think about psychology, you have like the clustering effect where we're just naturally putting things together that are unrelated to be able to create the kind of the perception of that storytelling, and it's almost a little bit like that, confirmation bias, when we dispute or we put to one side anything that gives us real evidence into what something is, and just seeking that and absorbing that information that goes along with the theory, or what we want to be able to see. So there's a lot that's going on there when it comes to these situations. So interesting one. I think it'd be really cool to talk about the one that you found a lot of information about, The Raw. I've never heard of this film before we started
Oh,
researching this show.
neither have I, and it's not really cursed in the normal sense. Like it's cursed because it's just a ridiculous. Like it was in 1981, uh, and just to start off, the for the film, they used untrained big cats for the entire film, and most of them were allowed to roam free on set. 70 cast
Nice.
and crew were injured. Some of them were quite severe, and I just noted down the most severe ones. No one died, though. That's the amazing thing. Not a single person died in the filming of this. Um, but I think Jan de Bont was the director and an actor in it, and he was actually scalped by a lion. And it took over 200 stitches to reattach his scalp. And he went back to finish
Wow.
the film as well, which blows my mind. I think like I've been bitten by a cat and not wanted to pet it again. I'd like.
Fair
um,
enough. That's fair enough.
Melanie Griffith was mauled by a lioness, resulting in facial wounds, which needed over 50 stitches and facial reconstruction surgery. Um, Tippi Hedren suffered a fractured leg after being dropped by an elephant and then was also bitten by a lioness. Noel Marshall bitten over a dozen times by lions, resulting in blood poisoning and gangrene. And these are like all of the list of injuries, so just all of this. Almost all of the injuries were also caught on camera, but not released in the film.
Good
And all
choice.
of like the unmentioned ones as well. Just the top four most famous ones, I guess. And yeah, I didn't go much further into it because I was just like, that's the fact that they got to the end of the film after 70 people were injured in it is just mind blowing.
I agree, and like I said, I've never heard of this film before. So yeah, so it was
Helpful.
it's an oldie, but for those that don't know the film, I've not come across it before. It's about a wildlife preservationist named Hank. He lives on an African reserve, and he's surrounded by a dozen lions, tigers, and other big cats. His family, who are actually played by his real wife, and their children come to visit him after they've spent years apart. The kind of idea behind the film was that Hank starts to treat, or has been treating, these wild animals like they're domesticated, and his family quickly soon find out, as you can hear from the list of injuries that have happened, they're definitely not. So what happens is that this less traditional story is more of a sense of escalating encounters. The animals invade the house, the characters try and fail to control them, and chaos as well literally unfolds on set. And lions behave exactly the way a predator would behave as well, which was interesting. So, as Gavin said, there were 70 injuries, including scalping, biting, near fatal attacks. De Bonnet had his scalp ripped off. Um, yeah, I think the film itself is less about it being cursed, more about unfortunate events that have taken place. But I don't know what you expect when you put that combination together. I don't actually know what anyone thought would happen.
I think it's almost
Why
a
anyone thought that
miracle.
would be a good film.
Like, it's almost a
Yeah, that
miracle
no
that no
one.
one died. Like,
Yeah,
I,
I that
I don't know how. I
that should have
genuinely
been
don't
their
know how.
advertising tag.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
they should have led with that. Genuinely a miracle, no one died. Definitely watch.
And whoever was the first dater there, like, honestly, if they didn't have the biggest salary, there's something wrong.
Oh, oh,
Mm.
you know, they went home at the end of the day going, today was like a whole. I did not wake up this morning thinking that I was going to have to reattach someone's scalp. That I didn't scalp. That wasn't something that I thought was on my bingo card for today, if I'm honest. But here I am.
Like, the
Here we
start
are.
of it is just like, I know CPR, and then by the end of it, it's CVs like 4 pages long. I can now perform minor surgeries in the field.
Yeah, and reattach appendages. It's an interesting concept. So you got to give it to them. They dedication
That's amazing.
to the cause. They saw it through.
It's,
They got it done.
just amazing, really.
Yeah. See, I'm a horror fan. I'm a fanatic. However, I don't like the gore and the blood
Oh,
and the
see,
unnecessary, like Saw, for example, is not. It's not a bit of me.
I'm very much into the
Psychological
gore.
thrillers or psychological horrors, I think, are really Big Laurie's. Big Laurie's, absolutely. She showed me. I remember the first ever like horror film that she showed me, and it was The Evil Dead, and we were like 15. It's now than that, older than that, 16, because we were in college.
Ah,
And she's laughing all the way through, and I'm there horrified, especially with the lady in the tree scene. That I wasn't sure what to do with myself with that. But yeah, so I've never been a fan. So these cursed aspects of these films really do play. I am probably going to be that person like, oh my god, it's cursed. Let's watch that. Let's watch that, because I like the psychological aspect of things. But I think it's really good to be able to sit back and then rationalize it as well. Simon made a very good. I highlighted it earlier. And Simon, I think she did. That was the tree and lady scene. So Simon said, like Christopher Lee said, it's terror about the risk. Absolutely. And then Simon also said, when it comes to future ghost hunting, do you think AJ could take it to the next level? AJ? Well, the boxer.
AI.
Oh, Jesus. I'm so sorry. I'm like, what? How did that come into the mix? I don't know. I feel like there is, because I have seen. I tell you what done it for me when I was like, no, we're always gonna know. Is sometimes my For You is just unhinged, right? And I will come across mukbangs, not my usual type of thing to watch, because people chewing is like my version of hell. But there was an AI one, and this woman's put food in the mouth and her tongue's come out of this cheek and then come out of this cheek. And I was like, there's always going to be a telltale sign. And I hope that's going to be the case. I hope that when it comes to investigating in the future, that we aren't going to, yeah, we're not going to be able to, we're not going to be falling foul. There needs to
Well,
be something.
wasn't there a thing recently where it's like some of the AIs have been programmed not to give you the whole truth? So then, even when they tried to reprogram it not to give you the whole truth, they still just withheld the truth. So they told you the truth, but didn't tell you all
Really?
the facts. Yeah. I can't remember what one it was. There's so many now. But one of them
Yeah,
got
there is.
programmed
Yeah.
not to tell you the truth, but then they told it not to lie either. So now it just kind of tells you the truth, not the whole truth, a little bit of the truth. So I think it's going to be so difficult, like even with some like white noise machines and stuff. Even then, it's like,
Yeah.
is it like just something that they've put in it? Is it like it caught a bit of
Mm.
the radio if you've made one yourself as well? Like, because I made my
I,
own one, I thought when I was, because it was like a little scroll wheel and I scrolled through all the different channels. And I thought sometimes maybe if you're close enough to a radio tower, maybe you just still pick up a little bit. I don't know.
I think the best one I've seen was from a Robert radio, and I think you will pick up AM or FM frequency depending on where you're at with it or what you're searching. So you do get bursts of radio come through. I think it's when you're getting that communication that goes over more than one or two sweeps. And it usually breaks the white noise as well. Like it usually pulls the voice comes through, but the white
Yeah.
noise seems to lessen. Whereas with a
Yeah.
radio, it's like the white noise and then the radio and then the white noise. Whereas it's kind of like it's a little bit
The
different.
white
The
noise becomes
voice.
background.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's ways of being able to do it, but yeah, I've seen apps. I mean, but then I remember when the first time when the Ovulus first come out. This was like 10 years ago, and it was the top of the range. Everyone wanted one, and I remember I was at the school in London, the Bernardo school. I can't remember what it's the ragged school. Yeah, so we was in a ragged school in London, and we was in the basement, and someone had this Ovulus, and we was using the Ovulus, and it started bringing up like giraffe and zoo, and I don't know, just really weird words that you just wouldn't. And I just thought to myself, it's no different. I feel, and I could be wrong. This could be my naive perception of it, but to the apps that are programmed now, that I mean, they have got a little bit better, but really, when the apps first come out, they were terrible. Especially when we were always kind of taught turn your phone on airplane mode when you're
Yeah.
investigating. Turn your phone on airplane mode because it's going to interfere with the equipment. And now we've got apps and we're using our phones, so it's just I don't know. I don't know if I
There
asked that
was
question, but
there was one that I used that was in Spanish. It was in
oh,
Spanish,
nice.
reverse Spanish. So then when stuff came through in English, it was a bit weird because you could sometimes like because it cycled through with white noise and reverse Spanish, but it was like built into the white noise, if that makes sense. So it was the same volume, so you could kind of hear like really rapid spurts of voices, but they made absolutely no sense whatsoever. It'd be like the odd like letter here and there. And then when you heard it a voice, it was so weird because you can hear all the letters and stuff, but you're just hearing like people say the alphabet essentially. And then you hear a word and you're just like,
Wow.
oh, hello.
Yeah, see,
That
that's
was,
that's the good stuff. That yeah.
yeah.
What was that? What was that equipment?
It was an app.
Really?
Yeah. I
Oh,
can't remember
here
what
I
it's called. I might
am.
still have it on my phone, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, it was because the guy who did it did paranormal investigating in I want to say Spain. So
Right.
then he designed an app around it, but he had a video of how you could do it, and you could like connect all these puzzle pieces essentially, and make like a library of words and things, and then reverse it all and tie it into. It was way beyond me. It was interesting to watch, but way above my pay grade. Um, And then it was better than anything else we'd tried. Like, and with white noise, I'm always a bit dubious of what you hear unless you get it on recording as well, and then can listen to it back and be like, oh yeah, no, that's nothing. Yeah.
Simon says the funny thing is she was only ordering a taco.
It was to
Yeah,
die
fair
for
enough.
as well.
Very clever. Oh, that's really cool. So yeah, I mean, I've not been a fan of apps, but there has been a couple that I've used. The one that we had with we went to the Red Lion a couple of weeks ago, and Laura, Big Laura, was doing a sensory deprivation, and she shouted out a profanity, what you would call a lady of the night, begins with a W, and so I said, because obviously she can't hear what I'm saying, and she's got headphones that are cancelling out any noises, and she's just saying what she's hearing come through the box. So I said, "Oh, who is this? Who is one of those things that you've said?" And then the Alex box said, "Your nan." Something like that. And I thought that was hilarious. I was like, "Oh my god, it was a Yo Mama joke."
Oh, we had one that was like a word app, like it would randomly bring up words. It didn't make any noise or anything. But it was nice to have like a prompt, and sometimes when you get the prompt of a word from that, and then you bring it up, and then you get a prompt from or a reaction from the white noise regarding that word, and you were playing the two apps off of each other, and they actually worked together. Sometimes, not all the time. The word one was, I think, nice for if you didn't know what to say or do, and it would say like, I don't know, church, and then that would give you the like basis for what you said next.
Okay.
Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but it helped me.
Yeah. I think that I've said this before. I think sometimes we run out of questions to ask. And I think outside of the obvious, hello, is anyone there? Would you like to speak to me? What's your name? How many is there of us? How many there is you? Whatever it is, you seem, especially with like, if you was to use divination tool, it's only got a yes, no answer. You soon run out of questions. So, what next? What do we do next?
I started to try ask um like dates, who was doing what when, like who was the king, queen, who was, were we at war, were we at peace, like, are you local, are you from abroad, did you move here, did you be born here, and stuff like that. And then sometimes when you get no response, you just feel like you're going crazy.
Yeah. Can feel, I think you definitely do get a moment of I'm literally sitting by myself talking to myself out loud, hoping for some kind of response. I think every investigator has got that, gets that from time to time. Someone says, if there is no context for spirit communication, do you think it's possible to contact your past self? Gavin, this is what you said. We're not necessarily
It's
this, but
about
you was
it.
talking about,
It's
yeah.
it's kind of like, because I think residual energy, like if you spend enough time in a place, like especially doing something like meditation and just like letting go, that it might be possible for you to imprint yourself in a place, if that makes sense. So like, I don't know, let's say Dunwich. I've spent so much time at Dunwich, and just you end up spending hours because it feels so peaceful, so at ease. Doesn't matter what time it is, you can hear the waves in the distance, and you could almost just fall asleep, no matter how cold it is, how wet the ground is. It's so calming most of the time, and like spending so much time there, feeling so at ease that I feel there's the potential that if ever I leave energy anywhere, it would be somewhere like that where you feel super comfortable and you don't even realize it, but pieces of you fall off along the way. And I think that's where the residual energy comes from. rather than the the smart energy. Can't remember what the other one's called. Like
Intellectual.
that's the one. Close enough.
Absolutely. And
Be
Simon
amazing.
says, imagine talking to your own spirit. So a lot of the time when we talk, so spiritualists, we believe that, spiritualists believe that our soul already knows the answers to anything, any question we have. We already know what we want. We already know the outcome. We already have an idea. Like the soul has all this information. What gets in the way is the psyche and the heart, right? Feelings and emotions. So the idea is that you're able to find yourself in a space where you're centered so that you can tap back into that soul energy. So you already got the answers. So there is lots of ways of being able to do it, but I reckon that it can be done. There's evidence, or there has been some, research documentation on it being done. I think the one that I found really interesting was when we were talking last week, Gavin, when you said about having those 13 levels of ancestry, that when you're communicating with a spirit, that part of your guide, that part of you can step in to stop the communication. So that's why sometimes it feels like that communication is off, or it's all of a sudden change, or there's a change of energy. Have I got that correct?
It's like so with the two different types of paganism that I've read about. With Slavic paganism, you have the 13 ancestor worship, and with Norse paganism, you have a thing called a Fylgja, which is like a spirit guide. Everybody has one, whether you like it or not. Most of them are female, not all of them are human. Some of them represent like animals and things like that. But they all form essentially that ancestor bond without having the ancestor worship, because they're there no matter what. You form the connection with your ancestors, but they walk whatever path you choose with you. So I feel like all of those things together, like you could incidentally be speaking to them rather than something that's super negative at a place. Even though you feel really heavy, you're getting answers to things that don't seem like something that makes you feel that way would answer, if you know what I mean. Like you're talking to the spirit of a murderer, for instance. Why would they answer you? Why would they say anything in response? They're making you feel horrible. They're probably getting what they want from you anyway. For something's giving you the information to keep you around. Could be them, could be something trying to help you leave, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's the crossover of all of those things, and it's weird to hearing other people's like opinions as well, and it all forming into one relatively solid idea, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking about what you said, there was an incident on the last investigation. I think I told you about it, where one of the girls were communicating. They were a conduit, and something quite uncomfortable come through, and was quite very negative. But then it felt, you could see the shift. You could see the shift of energy with her, because of the way that she would shift herself. And she was saying that she kind of felt like the communication was being blocked from time to time, or that it wasn't quite going in the way that she would expect it to go, or if there would be a shift in how it felt. And I think maybe considering who we were communicating with, who we thought we were communicating with, that would make a lot of sense. She was very empathic. So I can understand why that would happen. But I suppose we've all got our own version of what that could be when we've done investigations. I'm so aware of time. We've literally got maybe 5 minutes left, and I want to. Is there any kind of any films that we haven't covered that you feel like you want to kind of touch upon that we haven't spoken
Um,
about yet?
well, one of the weird ones that actually cropped up was The Walking Dead. Like, I know it's a TV series,
Oh
but
no, tell me everything.
um, it was I think it was in one of the seasons. They said there was like an insanely high number of near misses with like projectiles and things, which normally doesn't happen because they're quite methodical. And they've done it for, I think it was like season 7 or 8. So by that point, you're talking like 100+ episodes at least. And they were saying like weird things were happening with some of the equipment and stuff as well. I didn't do a massive look at it because I was like, you're throwing weapons around. Of course, there's going to be like near misses sometimes, but they said it was not normal for them because they do big fighting scenes and stuff all throughout it. But
Yeah.
might be worth a read if people are interested.
That's
That
really,
was
it's really
that was the weird one for me.
yeah. I think mine for me was like definitely the oldies, the goldies. I think obviously the Omen is what up there with some of the, well, if you think about the religious aspect of the Omen and the kind of the narratives that are around that anyway. But there was lots of things that were reported, like for example, the zoo that they were filming in experienced unusual animal aggression. But then, do you think maybe the people that were doing like the zoo itself and the people that worked within the film within the zoo maybe was looking for that change in the animal behavior? Maybe was a bit more sensitive to it. It's like
Yeah,
you don't ever really feel your feet until you really kind of think, oh, well, I'm going to think about my feet, and then all of a sudden you can feel your feet. It's one of those. It's like, oh, they say energy goes where energy flows where attention goes. So maybe that's a little bit more of that than anything else. There was a where someone was decapitated in one of the films, and they said that later on in real life, this accident happened quite similar to what was depicted in the film, and that's with John Richardson. Um, Again, it is one of those things about looking at pattern recognition, as with most of them. Um, this is where, as well with this film, this is where you had the two different people flying on two different planes. They got hit by lightning on two different separate occasions. Um, but then, if you think about statistically how many people work on a film,
yeah.
statistically, it might be that there'd be more um, accidents reported just because of the amount of people that are working on the film. And there's a lot in it when I mean, Jamie and Jamie, I watch them film and do all sorts. And there's so much that goes into it. And you are putting yourself in order. Jamie like climbs up all over the place. So I do think to myself, like, maybe it is the nature of the work as well. I know that we've really not played into that these films are cursed and bad things are gonna happen. I think we definitely are more sat in the, I wonder what the logical explanation for this is. I think if you believe these things are cursed, then, they are within that narrative. But I think it's always good to kind of look at the rational and logical part as well.
It's even like the cursed objects and stuff. Like I remember one of the like pharaoh's tombs first got open and loads of people died, and then it turned out it was due to the air that was trapped inside the pyramid, but because people didn't understand microbiology at that point, it was the curse of the mummy. But
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was just like really, really bad air that just clogged up their lungs, and they all died within a couple of days of opening up the tomb. Just quickly before the end, I didn't realise. Have you seen Insidious?
Yes. There's a
I
new
didn't
Insidious coming out.
realise.
There is a new one that's due to come out. I literally saw the trailer for it today.
I didn't realise that in the first one, there's some scenes that are in a hospital.
Yep.
That's in a supposedly famously haunted hospital in LA called Linda Vista Community Hospital. And I
Oh.
didn't know that, but because of their low budget, they chose purposefully highly energetic locations. And when the set workers were in there, they complained about extreme sudden bouts of queasiness or sickness. And I just thought it was interesting because I've read so many different ones where they complain about like being a bit emotional, getting a bit tired. And I'm like, well, when you're working in high heat and like it is an emotionally charged film a lot of the time, that makes sense. But queasiness and sickness seemed an extreme at that. Seemed like quite a poignant thing to say.
Is it an old hospital? Is it an old one?
Yeah, they said it was Linda Vista Community Hospital, is what I read in LA.
I wonder what their electrics are like.
Yeah,
I
I
wonder
don't
it's
know.
because that can cause queasiness, isn't it? The first thing I do
True.
if we go into any locations, if there's like a power source, a massive power source, I always note it in case. But yeah, that would be really interesting to see what the electricity in the building's like, to see if that's
And one of the things I
yeah.
think they added as well to add to the like selling of the curse was report to equipment malfunction during specific scenes relating to the further.
Oh really?
I don't know if that's just something that they tacked on to be like, oh yeah, the camera, messed up every now and then when we were talking about the really scary bits. But yeah.
Interesting, because I really love the concept of the Insidious is obviously is a franchise and, it has an incredible song in it, but I love the concept of the Further. I love the way they like, they portray the medium and how the medium works alongside those. I'm not quite sure about the gas mask, and I'm not too sure about the villain, like the demon diva. It definitely looks like the character out of, Star Wars, but it just yeah, I love the way they portray, the medium and portray the way that they work within that
Well,
scientific
I didn't
com
realize how low a budget they had for that. Like it
Oh,
was really
really?
low. I thought it was like a relatively high budget film, but apparently like it was stupidly low, which is why they used a lot of actual visual effects rather than computer graphics. It was because they
Oh,
didn't have the
wow.
budget for computer graphics, so they had to make do and purposefully change the environment by force rather than with computer graphics. And he was
That was a
also the
s
same director from The Conjuring as well, and he
Oh,
didn't like either of
really?
them. Yeah, James
Did he
James
not?
Wan. No, both of them. He said The Conjuring had uncomfortable energy, and and Insidious. He said he was more at ease because it was a fictional thing, so it wasn't based on a real event. However, he
Yeah.
noticed odd disturbances during key supernatural scenes, which needed reshooting of those scenes.
Wow.
So again,
Yeah,
it could
see,
just be like adding into the myth makes the magic, so to speak.
it's I tell you which film didn't come up for me when I was doing the research was, I was surprised, but Paranormal Activity. So that was a really low budget,
Oh,
really,
true.
really
Yeah.
low budget film, by Blumhouse, who I actually would argue is the best. I love Blumhouse. Any film that Blumhouse does, I love. But yeah, I didn't see anything on Paranormal Activity, considering
That's
that it was
weird.
very like Blair Witch, found footage. Because
I
Blair
still
Witch was
remember
like,
when that came out. Like that
yeah,
was for me. That was like a complete shift in horror movies that I'd watched. Like I'd never
yeah.
really watched found footage horror movies before.
Oh
Um,
no, I was a fan after Blair Witch, but then yeah, Paranormal
I was
Activity. I think they did overdo it. I think the first one was, would have been enough. After that, it just seemed to be a bit like, excessive. But yeah, didn't come across anything for Paranormal Activity.
no, that is weird. Like, yeah, I can't say I did either. Maybe it's because there's the low budget and
Couldn't pay the ghosts.
yeah, no, can't hire a curse for that price. I'm afraid.
No, we're not in the budget. Sorry, gonna have to go. Well, I think this is a really good place to kind of tie an end. Thank you so much for everyone that has joined us today, and thank you for those that have commented. It's really lovely to see those nice comments in the chat. And we will be back with you guys in 2 weeks' time. If you are interested in the podcast that we have coming up, then go over to Seventh Sanctum Podcast. We always advertise over there. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.